guests, good evening. Allow me first to congratulate the Makati Business Club on your 30th anniversary. For so long, you have been a true partner in promoting the role of the business sector in the development of the Philippines, not in the least through your advocacies and corporate social responsibility programs, including the Congress Watch and your participation in the Coalition Against Corruption. It is always good to know that as we try to work for the Filipino people, the Makati Business Club is making the extra effort to contribute positively to public interest. This has always been a venue for all aspects of policy and not just talk about the economy. After all, no sector operates in a vacuum. Not you, not me, and obviously not the Supreme Court. My task as Chief Executive is clearly spelled out: to uphold and defend the Constitution, implement its laws, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the people. You know that even before I was president, I was puzzled, even alarmed by the behavior of the Supreme Court. Our people established our government to uphold the public good, and we in the executive need what every executive needs: clarity in the rules, consistency in its interpretations, and a modicum of respect so that we can implement our plans. Therefore, what confronts me now is a central question. Can the executive fulfill its mandate given the current air of judicial uncertainty? Let me cite for you an example. The Supreme Court upheld that Dinagat was a province. They went on to establish, or government went on to establish the provincial government, from the hiring of provincial staff for the new capital and budgets for hospitals. Then the Supreme Court reversed itself and decided it should remain only a constituent part of Surigao del Norte. So everything stopped. Then the Supreme Court reversed itself again, leaving everyone in limbo. Surigao del Norte is unsure if it reassumes budgetary responsibility or whether the new provincial government has authority, resulting in funds remaining untapped and doctors left unpaid. A paralysis of basic functions due to blurred accountabilities. As fellow executives, you can fully appreciate how untenable this situation is when my job is to deliver services to a public for whom merely pointing the finger at a confused and confusing Supreme Court won't do. These are not abstract rules or theories. The lives and well-being of our fellow citizens are at stake. When the status is in limbo, how do we respond to the people of Dinagat as they clamor for the continued existence of their hospitals, their doctors, and their medicines? Mindful as we are of our roles in society, so too are we aware that the success of the system is dependent not on one man or one institution, but on the interplay between all sectors and institutions. A weak and corrupt government affects the state of the economy. We have seen so often in different countries all over the world how political instability has done nothing but harm business operations and ultimately economic stability. Worst of all, these redound directly to the lives of our countrymen. In government programs and initiatives that do not or cannot truly help the people because of a corrupt leadership. In a lack of jobs and opportunities to take stock of their lives, and ultimately in a poor and vulnerable Philippines. Because of the system of checks and balances, there is inevitably an interplay between the branches of government. There is a built-in safeguard, a designated arbiter, when disagreements or questions arise. This arbiter, as everyone would agree, is supposed to be the Supreme Court, but this is premised on a fundamental assumption that it will be objective and non-partisan. When our lawyers all know that it takes the Supreme Court 10 days normally to attend to motions and it decides to issue a TRO for Mrs. Arroyo in 3, who can avoid wondering what she did to merit such speedy relief? When furthermore, in deliberating on the TRO asked for by Mrs. Arroyo, the majority relied solely on the say-so of Mrs. Arroyo's lawyers, when any review of the documents submitted to the court showed that she herself couldn't make up her mind which cities she wanted to go to, how many people she wanted to bring, or what she wanted to do, see doctors or attend forums. Who can avoid wondering if her main priority was to escape the arm of the law? Or let me quote Justice Sereno. And I quote, "Why is the majority not even willing to hear the government before issuing the TRO? When, in the supervision of judiciary employees, a mere administrative officer of the Supreme Court and not a judicial officer may deny the right to travel," close quotes. When the court itself, in granting exceptionally speedy relief to Mrs. Arroyo, set conditions for her to be able to leave, only to say afterwards those conditions didn't have to be met before Mrs. Arroyo left. Who can avoid asking, why then did the court impose conditions it had no intention of seeing fulfilled? In these cases, did the Supreme Court follow its own precedents and rules? Is it then not fair of us to wonder whether objectivity has given way to partisanship? Is it then not fair of us to express concern at the direction the Supreme Court has taken? Let me be clear. We are not out to dictate upon the court, much less spark a constitutional crisis. No one should fear a healthy balance where all sides are heard and empowered to assert not only their constitutional rights, but fulfill their constitutional obligations. We ask these questions not out of a desire to undermine their positions, not out of disrespect and malice, but to fulfill our mandate and to our bosses, the Filipino people, all of you here included, consider, consider the alternatives. Had the court taken pains to hear both sides, if it deliberated not with surprising haste but with thoroughness, and then having objectively made up its mind, stuck to its interpretations, then we would have what we all desire: stability, predictability, and the authentic rule of law. And we could all do our jobs despite this air of uncertainty. Let me be categorical. I intend to do mine. The issue of electoral fraud has been in the national consciousness since the Hello Garci controversy. We now have a singular opportunity to put closure to an issue which the previous administration was unwilling to address. This is what brought us to this point in the first place. This time, closure can be achieved by submitting Mrs. Arroyo to the process of investigations and a fair hearing. Just recently, the President of South Korea paid a state visit to our country. And in my toast at our dinner, I said that the Republic of Korea represents some of my most cherished hopes for our own country. The institutions and body politic of South Korea grew stronger from holding its leaders to account. Chun Do-won and Roh Tai-woo were convicted of crimes only they, as former presidents, could have committed. It was not seen as a vendetta, but rather as what it was: justice. The strengthening of a system of laws and not men. Closure to a painful and harrowing past characterized by impunity in official circles. The question of holding public officials accountable for their actions is not one that we reserve for the presidency alone. Rather, it is one that applies to all government officials, from the policemen and traffic enforcers who engage in kotong or extortion, to the highest officials in our executive, legislative, and judiciary branches. Just as some presidents have subverted their offices for their selfish wants, so too in other branches exhibited this kind of behavior. We saw how this worked in the example of former Ombudsman Mercedes Gutierrez, who resigned in the face of charges that she had betrayed the public trust. And we must continue asking questions and remain aware of the actions and motivations of our public servants in any branch of government. And the bottom line is the firm belief that justice is the bedrock of progress. Justice, in essence, means that the actions of any man or woman will hold the same consequences for another. That a street sweeper or a baker's apprentice will undergo the same processes as perhaps a member of the Makati Business Club, hopefully not, or a former president of our republic. The predictability of outcomes breeds stability and shows that our institutions are not slaves to political expedients, to money or connections or to status. Just the other day, Secretary Baldos pointed out to me that over a quarter of our workforce is abroad. As we build economic foundations to allow more of our productive citizens either to come home or stay home, it is incumbent upon us to build a system of merit where everyone knows the rules are fair and consistent, and where there are no exceptions, even for an ex-president. I say this knowing full well that I too shall be an ex-president in 4 years and 6 months. But this is the point. Your guarantee of good behavior is the certainty of accountability. As I have repeatedly said, my actions are guided by a very tangible bottom line. A Filipino family not having enough on their dinner table. A Filipino child not having the opportunity to advance in society. A Filipino citizen not being able to take pride in his nation. As president, every day I face a crossroads. I know full well the gravity of every decision I make and its consequences, and I hold myself accountable. Thank you for listening.
A few business associations may
well-governed country and the well-educated people with greatly improved prospects for a better life. Move on for the sake of reconciliation of the interests of the business community. Its mission is to be the initiative is the private sector.
4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the new logo of Makati Business Club for 2011. And far from retirement, but may be described as an Thank you, Mr. President.
Modesty aside, what MBC is able to do is to bring to the table to convene the private sector and
At the direction the Supreme Court has taken. Let me be clear. We are not out to dictate upon the court, much less. Is it then not fair of us to wonder whether objectivity has given way to partisanship? Is it then to respond to the people of Dinagat as they clamor for the continued existence of their hospitals, their doctors, and their medicines? Mindful as we are of our roles in society, so too are we aware where there are no exceptions, even for an ex-president. I say this knowing full well that I too shall be an ex-president in 4 Justice Sereno. And I quote, why is the majority not even willing to hear the government before issuing? Showed that she herself couldn't make up her mind which cities she wanted to go to, how many people she wanted to bring, or what she wanted to do, see doctors or attend forums. Obligations. We ask these questions not out of a desire to undermine their positions, not out of disrespect and not being able to take pride in his nation. As president, every day I face a crossroads. I know full well the gravity of every decision I make and its consequences, and I hold myself accountable. Thank you for listening. Good evening. Good evening.